Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Celebrity Natal Charts. Today, we are going to be looking at the natal chart of Mel Gibson, which I believe that's his full name, born in Peekskill, New York, United States, January 3rd, 1956 at 4:45 p.m. Birth time accuracy good. And I'm actually looking at two different natal charts for him. One is from Astro Charts, and one is from another site that I will credit in a second. Mel God, these names, man. Mel, Colm, Seeley, Gerard Gibson. Mel Colm Seeley Gerard Gibson, AO, born January 3rd, 1956, is an actor, film director, producer, and screenwriter. He was born in Peekskill, New York, moved with his parents to Sydney when he was 12 years old, and later studied acting at the Australian National Institute of Dramatic Art after appearing as an action hero during the 1980s. Gibson went on to found Icon Entertainment, a production company which independent film director Adam Egoyan has called an alternative to the studio system. In 1995, Gibson produced, directed, and starred in the Academy Award-winning Braveheart. In 2004, he directed and produced The Passion of the Christ, a controversial film depicting the last hours of in the life of Jesus Christ. I don't know. Who played Jesus in that movie? I should look that up. Anyway, so Mr. Mel Gibson, he is a Sun Capricorn, and he has the rising Cancer. And he is born in the year of the fire monkey. Coolio for him. He's so cool. I'm gonna look at this other chart too. I pulled up these other charts because I think I even said in the Scott Mascuti video, I was like, I couldn't find anybody with Capricorn rising Scorpio on Astro Charts, so I had to look at another website. So I'm pretty. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Kid Cudi, Scott Mascuti probably is in a rising Scorpio, but that's all I could find. What website is this? This is Astrotheme, astrotheme.com. So Astrotheme confirms. Well, Astrotheme actually says that Mel Gibson is a fire goat and not a fire monkey. So quickly wrong. And I think I was saying that in the JRR token video. I was like, I feel like because all these people are Capricorn, I'm gonna like get their Chinese zodiac signs wrong. Well, what this says fire goat, and then down here it says wood goat. So he's either a goat or a monkey. Well, that's the thing with January 3rd, because the Lunar New Year is in February. So I guess like if he was an Aquarius or a Pisces or whatever, like he would be a monkey, but he's a goat. Either wood or fire. And that's Mel Gibson, and goodbye. Just kidding. Alright, let's see. Let's pull back up his chart here. How do you guys feel about Mel Gibson? He's like a very controversial character. I mean, and that's the thing too, like my philosophy about racism and racist, where it's like I feel like if somebody's telling you they're not racist, then they probably are super duper racist. And they're trying to hide it. But it is also my connotation about Cancer and rising Cancer that their favorite color is white, and they're all low-key white supremacists because it's like their favorite color. And then I would say like Scorpio. I don't really have this feeling about many signs, but it's like Cancer and Scorpio especially. And then it's like I feel like Scorpios tend to be like not like black supremacists, but obsessed with like Africa and Egypt and like black culture, almost to the point that if they're not African or part of the African diaspora, it's like problematic. So like I look at someone like a Scorpio like Katy Perry and her like Dark Horse video, and it's like Scorpio has this energy like, hey, like I'm one of the Negroes too, and it's like you're not, but whatever, who cares? So he has a rising Cancer, Cancer in the first house. So that means to me that his mother is very integral into building his self-esteem, which, and even in his bio, it's like, oh, I moved to Sydney, Australia with my parents. Um, like if his mother was attractive or unattractive, his mother's side of the family, if they were successful or unsuccessful. And not to say that I mean, because the first house to me is like the father's side of the family. So it's like, I guess it's very important for him that both his mother and father had been, are successful. Um, it also says that, like, I mean, his face, he has a really sweet face, Mr. Mel Gibson, I think so. Whether he thinks that, a certain religion or race of people are controlling Hollywood. And then, not to be a white supremacist, but it's like, who's to say, and then maybe it's not like an actual like synagogue that's ruling Hollywood, but maybe it's like one person and he just happens to be like Jewish or something, who knows. But we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about his uh so also with the first house, it's like also your appearance. So he's not known to be overweight to my knowledge, but he could have struggled with that like in his early childhood. He could deal with that in his later life. You never know. Like he could be like throwing up in a toilet right now, trying to be like bulimic or something. Um, and then his second house we have. I'm sorry if I sound like bored or whatever. I just like whenever I do a lot of videos, I get really excited when I'm doing Pisces. And initially, I was only going to do Pisces, and then I saw these like really great Aquarius people, and I was going to do Aquarius. Um, and Capricorn has a lot of good celebrities too. I guess maybe I just don't care as much. And then I'm really afraid when I get to like Sun Cancer, Sun Taurus, Sun Gemini, because I'm like, I'm not even go there. So his second house is in Leo. So like I've said, I think with the Cindy Crawford video and other Rising Cancer videos, that when you have Rising Cancer, your biggest priority should to be famous and to be popular. And pretty famous, pretty popular. It's his cash cow. That's how he makes his money. So like, if this was a blind like I was just given this natal chart and they didn't give me the name that this was Mel Gibson, I'd be like, okay, dude, Gel Mibson, work on being popular, work on being famous, work on your appearance, work on your hair, your nails, makeup, da da da. It'll bring you a lot of money, good luck and fortune. And I think he also has Uranus and Pluto in the second house as well. So so Neptune, I've been saying, is like a TV antenna. But I feel like Uranus in the second house of Leo talks about like the boundlessness of him being popular and being on. I don't know. I mean, they play movies on television. I'm pretty sure all the '80s action films that he was in is probably being played on USA, and it's probably how people know him the best. I've seen Passion of the Christ on TV, so. But it also says that his fame is boundless, and he's a producer. He produces his own movies, so and he produced a movie about Jesus Christ. So if he wanted to say Jesus had green hair, he would have control over that, like boundless, um, boundless, like no limitations with his money. And Pluto in the second house as well says to me that a lot of it might be done for like revenge, like I mean, I guess that's his thing. Like, what does it say here in his bio? Production company, independent film director, or what does this say? Icon Entertainment. So Icon Entertainment seems like it probably is some type of like clapback at whatever studio system rules or situations that he experienced while being an actor, or limitations probably with finances being an actor that he was trying to supersede, and maybe he did. Um, cool. And then his third house, he has Virgo, which I also believe he has Jupiter in Virgo as well. Yeah, Jupiter in Virgo. And Jupiter in Virgo to me is actually something that I'm still really trying to figure out. Because to me it says like working at like a really crappy job or doing like grunt work or little work will bring you a lot of luck and fortune. So it's like if Mel Gibson was in between movies and he didn't know what to do, him going to go work at like Dunkin' Donuts or as an AD or some smaller role or playing a small role, he would get a lot of luck and fortune. And as like an actor in a in a movie or in a play or whatever it is, let's say they're asking him to be like Batman in the Batman Forever. Was it Batman Forever or Batman Unlimited? The one with the guy Terry. I could see him being a good live action old Batman. But then Jupiter and Virgo, it's like your Jupiter and Virgo people would be better off playing like an extra or making a cameo. Like he'd be better off playing Mel Gibson in a Batman Forever movie rather than playing Batman or the Joker or whatever. It'd be like luckier for him. Also, you don't have to do as much. So I believe that Hollywood is a horrible, evil, racist cabal, and it's been confirmed. Like it's been confirmed for me in a lot of different movies. I don't really watch a lot of movies either. And one of my strongest pieces of evidence was when Samuel Jackson was in the Star Wars movie and he was fighting Senator Palpatine and they just like threw him out of a window and I was like, "Oh, well, racism." But then later in an interview with Samuel Jackson, who I feel like should be a Capricorn. He probably has a lot of Capricorn placements. Um, at least Mercury, right? And so they just threw him out of a window, and then I watched an interview later. He was saying like, "I'm old. I'm 60. I didn't want to. I didn't want to do a bunch of like stunts and tricks and flips and whatever, whatever." So I was like, "Oh, just throw me out of a window." So some things are illusions, some things are real. So even to maybe his own feelings about race and control and whatever, um, maybe they're just illusions. But Jupiter and Virgo in the third house. So he probably sounds, speaking to him, he probably sounds very educated. He probably talks a lot about education. He probably was like like in a video game, there's like an NPC, and they give out like certain information, like, oh, Sonic, go cross this bridge, and there should be an item waiting for you. Like he's sort of like that, I guess. Like, oh, do this movie. It'll lead you to other opportunities. Do this play. Do this. Be on this television show. Uh, Third house in Virgo. Third house in Virgo is like it's like yeah, he's an actor, so he's like really good at speaking, and he's been very lucky and fortunate. Fourth house in Libra. This says to me that he would prefer to marry somebody that is very similar to his mother, and he has a very close, maybe like a very close yet superficial relationship with his mother and his mother's side of the family. He also has the moon in 0 degrees of Libra. So the moon in Libra, Libra moon. Libra moon. I feel like all air sign moons are like the most uncomfortable. But I would say the Libra moon seems like a very balanced place to have the moon because you're not completely controlled or overwhelmed by your emotions. Like Aquarius moon, I'm always like, oh, stay away. They're never going to tell you they love you. They're always going to act like they hate you somehow, or they sort of do. Aquarius has this thing like against their father, where it's like they might not clean up their house or clean up themselves or whatever, or not eat their vegetables until they're 45 because their dad told them to do it one time and they feel the need to like rebel against authority or like first house Aries energy. Where Libra is diplomatic. So they're like, oh, kiss me and I'll kiss you back. Like, you say you love me? Okay, well, I love you too, You don't love me? All right, I don't love you neither. I'm a Libra. It was an air sign. I just, whatever. Let's fall out of love. Oh, he has Mercury in Capricorn. Mercury in Capricorn. Cursing and acting crazy. So that's the fourth house in Libra. His fifth house is in Scorpio. Where he also has Mars. He's like an angry guy. Like, where he has he has Mars in Scorpio, Saturn in Scorpio, and Neptune in Scorpio. So a lot of his things in life are about revenge. Like revenge is like a huge theme for him. Passion of the Christ seems like a very kind of like vengeful movie for whatever reason. It's very like bloody and violent, I'm sure. Um, and then and then just to dial back real quick, third and fourth house, just really really quick. His third house being in Virgo and his fourth house being in Libra says that his environment growing up was like very studious. He might have lived really close to a school, where he lived. Like Peekskill is like very nice, nice neighborhood, beautiful topiaries and beautiful better Libra. I always think of the magazine Better Homes and Gardens. But the Scorpio fifth house with Mars, Saturn, and Neptune. So this I've talked about this in a lot of the Pisces videos, especially him being a action movie hero from the 80s. Like the way that we take in media has changed, right? Like at one point it was like we all go to the movies every Friday night to see the new whatever. Was he in? What action movies was he in? I think I'm thinking about Bruce Willis. But like whatever action movies, and you go see them Friday night, and then they get released to VHS, and maybe there's like a deterioration in the appreciation of the work that went into the movie because it's like on a smaller screen. Uh, Maybe he never wanted to be on television, like only wanted to do movies. I always say that the fifth house is the house of sexy distractions, so maybe he finds it like sexy to be like angry and aggressive and racist and rude and mean. And then like once he starts, he can't stop. And it's a limitation for him. Um, Mars in Scorpio, he acts like a Scorpio, so what does that mean? He's like very secretive. But then also with Saturn there, it's like him being secretive, him not wanting to be on television, him being so aggressive, it's a limitation for him. It causes limitations. So I think this like combination of Mars, Scorpio, Saturn, fifth house, it's like he has a lot of obstacles and a lot of hurdles to overcome in his life, or had a lot of obstacles, a lot of hurdles to overcome in his life. And the way that he's supposed to overcome all these obstacles and hurdles is with his sixth house. The sixth house is, as you guys know, the house of service and health and healing and Virgo. He has a sixth house in the sign of Sagittarius. I believe his North Node is also there as well. So Sagittarius is like because it was like my stereotype that all like grand celebrities have Sun Sagittarius, like all the celebrities that you want to put on a poster and frame in your room, like Jim Morrison or Jimi Hendrix or something, or Bette Midler. And then I was like, no, there's a lot of like great people that don't have a Sun Sagittarius, that you would want to put a poster up in your room. And then through this natal chart series, I'm like, oh, but then most of them have like a rising, like most celebrities have a rising Sagittarius, or are said to have a rising Sagittarius. But his North Node and his sixth house, it's like his destiny to be famous and to be competitive about his fame. Which, because rising Cancer in combination with his second house in Leo, that bodes very well for him because that's his number, has been his number one priority. And the Capricorn rising Cancer is very interesting because Capricorn is Cancer's opposite sign. So not to say, not to give any medical diagnosis or whatever, but it seems like, in the street pharmacy, like somewhat like bipolar, like not really believing in what he says, contradicting himself, contradicting what's going on in his soul. So, he might be the type of person to be vegan or vegetarian, but might eat meat sometimes in the sake of being polite, which I think is nice. He also has Mercury in Capricorn, which I was saying that Samuel Jackson might have Mercury in Capricorn, which I don't know for certain. But Mercury in Capricorn is like runs off at the mouth, like, just curses people out, yells, aggressive, angry, abusive. He might be very abusive in relationships. He might have been abused by his parents or by a spouse or something. And just because he's a man, I mean, men date other men, but just because he's a man doesn't mean that he's necessarily always the abuser. He could very easily have been emotionally abused by his mother, by his wife, by his girlfriend. Um, but also, like, Capricorn abusers is what he's attracted to. And then also in someone else's chart, I was saying that I think it's Jim Carrey, where what he's attracted to are suits. So he may not be attracted to like other actresses or actors or models or whatever. He prefers people who wear like suits to work, people who work in an office, agency. And then also he owns a production company, so he might have like, you know what? He's like, I'm tired of these actresses. I'm gonna start a production company where I can make whatever movies I want under whatever narrative I want, and also be around a bunch of high-powered, wealthy, not wayward, gonna be on Wheel of Fortune next week or $100,000 pyramids selling out their fame for airtime and no money. So his eighth house is in Aquarius. So that says to me, eighth house in Aquarius says he's a lot of like spiritual, magical friends, and that he also is in a like really big competition with a lot of his friends. He also has the legendary Venus in Aquarius, which means that he loves his friends, and he sort of has like bromantic fantasies. So, like I said, like men date men, but it's like, and I think in his mind, it would be like he would want to go live in a cabin with like three of his best friends and just like Brokeback Mountain it to the end. But he also has Chiron in his eighth house as well. So, he might have a lot of friends that know about Christianity and Catholicism and astrology and Islam, and he really wants to expand his mind and have a deeper knowledge and understanding of spirit and of God, which I guess maybe through his movie, he's able to help other people with. So that's my thing too about astrology. That's my thing about religion. That's my thing about tarot readings. It's like you could get an astrological reading and be like, oh, I see you have Capricorn in the fourth house. This means you had an abusive mother. And you're like, my mom was an abusive. How dare you? And then later on, you start to like, reflect on everything, and you're like, oh no, like she was like super abusive. Like, oh, see, that guy was right, or like, no, like she was really great. I'm gonna write her a letter, and it opens up a path of healing. And Chiron is all about healing. So it's like there's ways that he's able to heal his friends and help. Yeah, that's the thing too. Like maybe he might become a TikTok NPC. Because it's like I really get this thing like that glowing orb from Sonic or Toadstool in Mario. Thanks for interrupting, Apple. Um, where he's just like is a sign on the road. He's like, go this way, go that way. I can't go that way, but you should go that way. And that's like really like a life of experience, but it's like, about friendship and technology. So, he's like, oh man, don't buy that Samsung phone. Like, he's like like almost like a news anchor or something, I guess, maybe amongst his friends. Oh, don't buy that Samsung phone, they blow up and blah, blah, blah. And I know because I had one and it blew up and it burned my leg, you know? So he's very much like that. He's very much like a warning sign and not going to let other people get hurt based on past experiences that hurt him. So it's like if he dated some woman named like Rachel or something and she used to like beat him up or like abuse their child that they had, he was like, oh, Tony, don't date Rachel. She's abusive. She beat me up, you know? And in his ninth house, he has Pisces, where he also has his midheaven. You know, astrology girlies know that Jesus, even though is said to be born under the sign of Capricorn, everybody's like, that's wrong. He has to be a Pisces. which, you never know. Jesus could have been a Capricorn with a rising Pisces. Jesus could have been a Capricorn. I know that Christmas is like Saturnalia or whatever, but whatever. And so we have here a Capricorn whose midheaven is in Pisces, and it's like his life is all about Christ, the teachings of Christ, wanting to learn from him, uh, and wanting to share the knowledge as well. I've never watched Passion of the Christ, so I don't know if it was shot in a studio or a sound stage, but there could have been a lot of like foreign travel involved. They could have brought in a lot of animals from different countries, far and wide. A lot of the actors could have been from abroad, from other countries. He might even at some point start some type of like spiritual school or temple or something like that. The temple of, he might build the temple of Jacob. You never know, and the people will come from all over, and they'll be like, "Oh, such a beautiful temple, the house of Jacob." And then in his 10th house, he has Aries. So he might have been in a lot of war films or like films that are based on war or government propaganda films or whatever. 1980s action films might be just propaganda. It's tied in with his destiny. Capricorn and Aries, as I'm recording this on, what is today? Today's February 16th. It is like the Tower card, like the Tower tarot card, which is like storms and upheaval and like bad stuff. But it's also somebody who's very somebody who's very tall, or someone who's very tall or grand, and they tower over people, like a towering success. So, when he goes and he meets people, he probably makes them like tremble and shake and cry, especially having done that Passion of the Christ movie. So, like, there's like a spiritual energy about him as well, along with his like fame um, and finances. And talking about fame and finances, so he has an 11th house in Taurus. So 11th house in Taurus. So even though he is like this technological NPC telling people what directions to go to, how they can best make friends, how they can best connect with other people, especially with like things like social media, like, oh, you should have a TikTok, but don't have an Instagram, or I learned this, like, use this phone, use this hack with that. But also 11th house in Taurus is someone who's sort of like a Luddite. So, he might be telling people, oh, don't get the smartphones, use a flip phone. Um, he might tell, like, and that's the thing about Taurus too. He might tell all of his friends that he's like some type of vegetarian and he's not, or that he's abstaining from certain technologies, or that he's not on social media and he is. Um, so that's the 11th house in Taurus. A Luddite means someone who is not quick to adapt to new technologies. And the 12th house in Gemini. So 12th house, I'm always like, this is the sign of the people who make you miserable. Um, or I feel like it's like, it's 101 Dalmatians. You are the rising Cancer Dalmatian, and then there's the rising Gemini Dalmatian. And it's like you're super jealous of whatever is going on in their bowl in their life, because it's the only one that you can see, and you're not so jealous of Taurus, Aries, Pisces, whatever, because you don't see them. So then the Gemini just looks like they have everything, and then with Cancer, who tend to struggle with their weight and their like breast size and things like that are like come up a lot as being an actor, getting measured for costumes and whatever. There could be some Gemini in his life, or just like foxy little men and women that look like fairies, that just like slip in and out of different costumes, and oh my god, this shirt is too thin, I'm swimming in it, like might like send him like might make him steam a little bit. Make him steamed. But then also the 12th house is about secrets and spirituality and that connection to God, which he might have a fear of speaking about. And then through being, having his own production company, it might have given him the perfect platform and the voice to express his feelings towards just like the world in general and God and spirituality. This chart reading has been very. I'm not like I don't know. I've never, like I said, I've never seen the Passion of the Christ. I don't know how accurate or inaccurate it is, but I could tell that it was very meaningful to him. Let's see if I missed anything, because I don't think he has any planets in these houses. No, he does not. Oh yeah, and then he is either a fire goat or a wood goat, I think we said at the beginning of the video. Some sort of goat. So goats, other than being the greatest of all time, also other than it just being the animal that represents Capricorn as well, the goat, the monkey, and the rooster are supposed to be like best friends, and they're supposed to take life very easily. So I've said this like probably 10 million times in these videos about the monkey. I'm like, oh, the monkey, you know, they didn't run the race. They just got into the Jade Emperor's calendar from helping the tiger. And there's a million different versions of those stories and what was going on. But in one version of the story, it's like, I guess like right before they got to the finish line, there was a river or like a swamp or a lake or something. And I believe in this story that I heard, the goat, not Mel Gibson, the goat and the rooster and the monkey just all took a raft together and they were like all happy or something. Some other versions, I think it's like they ride on the back of the dragon, which there is apparently no correlation between the West and East zodiac, but some people have said that the dragon is similar or equivalent to Aries. So I could definitely see an Aries picking up anybody on their back and carrying them across the finish line. And those myths and stories, I think, do talk about like how people's lives will go. So, as I was analyzing his fifth house and seeing all these like, obstacles and struggles with aggression and anger, I guess it wouldn't really matter. And maybe that's why he's so angry and aggressive, because he's like, I can say whatever I want. I'm Mel Gibson. People still love me. I did Passion of the Christ, I really wish I would have known about maybe one or two other of his movies. Oh, Lethal Weapon. I knew it was something. I was like, he has like but I thought that was Bruce Willis, but that's Die Hard maybe. So let's read this little bio real quick from Astro Theme. American-born actor, director, and producer, raised primarily in Australia after establishing himself as a household name with Mad Max, Lethal Weapon series. Gibson went on to direct and star in the Academy Award-winning Braveheart. Yeah, so like Braveheart, Lethal Weapon, those come on TV all the time. So those probably were like big blockbuster films, probably did really well at Blockbuster and Hollywood video stores back in the 90s and 2000s. And where are they streaming now? He might start a streaming service. Like if I were an actor, especially like an actor, producer, whatever, I would be like, y'all can't watch none of my movies unless you pay me $49.99 a month, like screw HBO, I own these movies. That's what I would do. Maybe that's stuff that he talks about. So anyway, that is Mel Gibson. Thank you so much for listening, liking, sharing, subscribing, finding your favorite Capricorn rising Cancer friend, and sharing this video with them and telling them how great they are and how racist that they aren't. Like, don't send this to your favorite racist for like, oh, you're racist. You like Mel Gibson. Here you go. Alrighty, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.